Hey Stoic friends, welcome back. They won't say it. Hell, most of them can't even name it, but they feel it. That invisible shift when you walk in, like the room itself holds its breath. No fake smile, no polished show, just this gravitational pull around you. The kind of energy that makes people stop mid-sentence and turn, like something ancient just entered the space. You don't try to stand out. You just exist differently. And that difference, it burns through the noise like a blade through silk. This isn't about the tailored suit or a sculpted jawline. It's not about the price tag on your wrist or how well you play the game. That's surface dust. Anyone can buy that, but what you carry, that can't be sold. It's carved. It's earned. It's the weight of silent wars you never told anyone about, the ache behind your stillness, the fire behind your calm. People can sense it even if they can't name it. That's why they look at you like you've been somewhere they haven't, because you have. You don't need to raise your voice. The atmosphere does it for you. The calmness in your eyes isn't peace. It's power under control, like a man who's wrestled with chaos and made it kneel. Women glance twice, not because of what they see, but because of what they feel. Men go quiet around you because they know. Not logically, instinctively. That kind of presence doesn't whisper, it haunts. It doesn't ask to be respected. It demands it without a sound. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction." But you weren't just polished. You were shattered and rebuilt in the dark alone. While everyone else was performing, you were transforming. No spotlight, no applause, just you and the pain and the decision to rise. Anyway, you've bled in silence. You've walked through hell not to prove something, but because no one was coming to save you. And now you are the storm. You are the aftermath. You are what survival looks like in silence. This video is not for the man who needs approval. It's not for the one chasing validation. This is for the one who's been misread, misunderstood, even feared. Not because he's done anything, but because people feel something in him they can't explain. That quiet danger, that raw authenticity, that feeling of standing next to a man who knows exactly who he is and doesn't owe anyone an explanation. If that's you, you're about to understand why people react the way they do around you and why you must never shrink again. Don't skim this. Don't treat this like another video. Let the words tear through the fog. Let them remind you who you've become and what it cost you. This isn't information. This is recognition. This is your reflection in verbal form. Every trait we reveal from here, you didn't fake it. You forged it through heartbreak, through silence, through war zones of the mind. You don't just deserve respect, you've become it. Write this in the comments like it's carved into your skin. My presence speaks before I do. Not as a slogan, as truth, as fact, as warning. Now listen like the video, comment your thoughts and subscribe. But more than that, feel this. Let it ignite you. Let it remind you why your silence is louder than most men's screams. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You are the proof. So stand tall, stand still, and let the world learn to adjust to your frequency. Because from now on, you walk in as a storm-wearing skin. Now let's dive in. Number one, you make people nervous without saying a word. You don't speak. You haunt. You don't walk in. You shift the atmosphere. Before you even breathe a word, something cracks in the air. People feel it in their spine, a tension they can't name, a pressure that wasn't there a second ago. You don't need to raise your voice because your existence alone is loud enough. You are what silence sounds like when it's been through war, controlled, measured, and terrifyingly still. The kind of stillness that reminds others how much noise they've been making just to avoid their own reflection. When you enter, the room doesn't just notice, it recalibrates. People adjust themselves, not for fashion or formality, but out of sheer survival. Because in your presence, the lies they've built their identity on begin to tremble. The performance slips, the script stutters. Their words lose their rhythm because, deep down, they know. You see the spaces between them. You don't stare. You read. You don't watch. You register. And when your eyes land on someone, it's not attention, it's judgment day. Without a single word, you remind them of everything they've been pretending not to be. Women feel it in ways they can't articulate. It's not charm, it's not looks, it's gravity. It's that savage elegance that doesn't flirt. It pulls. You don't chase. You don't beg. You just exist, like a storm wrapped in flesh, like something that survived its own fire and wears the smoke like cologne. You are not a man who talks. You are a man who knows. And that knowing, that quiet, ruthless clarity, it seduces and destroys. You don't have to touch them. Your silence already did. You don't have to impress them. Your stillness already unsettled their fantasy. You carry the weight of battles you never spoke about. And that weight doesn't just sit. It shakes. Not in weakness, but in presence, in power. You're not loud because you're full of lessons carved in solitude. Full of scars you didn't hide, full of a calm so dangerous it makes chaos feel safe. People don't know whether to respect you, fear you, or both. And that confusion, that all wrapped in discomfort, that's the mark of a man who doesn't just walk in, he disrupts. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, but you did more than that. You burned everything that wasn't you. And now you walk like the ghost of a former life that didn't survive you." That's why they tremble. That's why they laugh too hard, speak too fast, smile too wide. It's not social awkwardness. It's spiritual recoil because you remind them what real presence looks like, what real manhood feels like. And for those still living in illusion, that's not inspiration. That's a threat. So when they start shifting in their seats, when the volume drops and the air gets thick, when you're met with trembling voices or eyes that won't hold yours, don't flinch. That's not rejection. That's recognition. You've become a mirror they can't handle, a silence they can't lie in, a presence they can't fake their way past. That's not awkwardness. That's power unspoken, and it belongs to you. Number 2, women are drawn to you even when you don't chase. You don't chase. You command gravity. You're not scrambling for attention like the lost ones, refreshing messages and chasing shadows. You don't have to be everywhere because your silence spreads faster than noise. While other men beg to be seen, you became the kind of man women can't unsee once they lock eyes with you. You move like a man who has wrestled with his own darkness and came out sharper, cleaner, and too damn whole to ever beg again. You're not looking for a woman to complete you. You already buried that weakness. You've become your own source. Your validation doesn't come from a soft hand or sweet words. It comes from the way you show up, solid, focused, disciplined. Your mind is built like a fortress, and your heart is not a cage. It's a gate that opens only for peace, never chaos. That difference, it's not just noticeable, it's magnetic. Women can smell the difference between a man who chases out of fear and a man who chooses out of power. They feel it in your energy. Not pushy, not loud, not desperate, just there, present like a storm that doesn't need to announce itself. The way you speak, it's not performance, it's precision. The way you look at her, not with hunger but with awareness. You're not trying to seduce her. You're deciding if she's earned access to your world. And that right there is what breaks her conditioning, because she's used to being chased, not chosen. Your discipline is your cologne. Your peace is your aura. Your boundaries are carved in steel. You're not afraid to walk away. And that alone separates you from 99% of men, because you're not starving for love. You're feasting on purpose. She sees it in your posture, in your pace, in how you'd rather sit in silence than entertain chaos. You've become the man who doesn't chase butterflies because you're too busy building a garden they beg to land in. A woman doesn't fall for a man like you because of how many compliments you give. She falls because, in your presence, she remembers herself. Her feminine energy unlocks. Her chaos calms. Her walls lower. And it's not because you tried to get her. It's because you made her feel safe enough to come to you. So when she lingers longer than she needs to, when her laugh gets softer around you, when her eyes scan for yours in a crowd, that's not luck. That's not charm. That's the silent power of a man who doesn't beg because he became the source. Drop this in the comments like a war cry. I attract by being whole, not hungry. Number 3, you carry a calm that feels unshakable. You weren't born with peace in your hands. You earned it, not in temples, not through therapy apps, but in the fire. In sleepless nights where silence screamed louder than chaos. In moments where everything cracked, your plans, your pride, your heart. And you didn't run, you stayed, you bled, you rebuilt. That's why your calm doesn't feel like a personality trait. It feels like a battle scar. And people feel it the moment they stand near you. In a world that's drowning in panic, where everyone is screaming to be seen, your stillness is not just rare, it's sacred. When you walk into a room, it's not volume that turns heads, it's the absence of noise. The way your eyes hold silence like they've seen things others wouldn't survive. The way your body doesn't flinch even when the energy shifts. You've become the kind of man who doesn't need to raise his voice because his presence already did the talking. And women, they feel it instantly. It's not charm. It's not smooth words, it's the weight in your silence, the way you listen without needing to interrupt, the way your breath stays steady when her stumbles. You don't rush, you don't chase, you anchor in your presence. She doesn't feel the need to be impressive. She feels the permission to be real. And that permission, that stillness, it's so rare that it feels like freedom. Your calm doesn't mean you don't feel the storm. It means you learn to hold it. You carry it like a sword on your back, not to threaten, but to remind the world, I've survived worse. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. And that's exactly what you've become, a walking sanctuary. Not because life spared you, but because you refuse to surrender to its noise. So when someone calls you chill, they're not being casual. They're confessing. They're telling you that, for the first time in a long time, they could breathe. That your energy made them feel like they weren't being hunted by life anymore. You didn't just calm the room, you healed it. Drop this in the comments like a declaration. I am the calm in the storm. Number 4, people respect you even if they don't like you. There's a certain silence that follows your name. Not fear, not fame, but a pause. The kind that happens before someone speaks about you because they know they'd better get it right. Even those who envy you, even those who hate what you stand for, won't dare dismiss you because deep down they feel it. You're not like them. You live by a code, and that code cuts through their illusions like a blade. You don't bend to please. You don't shapeshift to blend. You walk through the world like a man on a mission, and men like that rattle the cowards. You've got that ancient, unshakable quality, the kind that makes liars uncomfortable, the kind that makes the weak nervous because your very existence exposes them. You don't need to preach. Your discipline speaks louder than their distractions ever will. You've lost people because of it, not by accident, but by refusal. You refuse to entertain what disrespected your peace. You refuse to play dumb just to keep the room comfortable. You refuse to pretend when everyone else was wearing masks. And in a world addicted to flattery and fakery, that kind of refusal, that kind of truth, it's a threat. Let them call you arrogant. Let them whisper. Let them leave. Because those who walk away from your honesty were never built to stand in the presence of a man like you. And the ones who stay, they'll never question your spine. They'll know that behind your silence is a fire that won't sell out for applause. Stoicism reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because real evolution looks like rebellion in a world that fears authenticity. But you've already chosen your side. You'd rather walk alone with your soul intact than ride with a crowd that lost theirs trying to fit in. And that's why they talk when you're gone, why they hesitate to challenge you. Because deep down, even if they never admit it, they know you're one of the last real ones left. You don't demand respect. You become the storm that makes it non-negotiable. Number 5, you make people reflect on themselves. Not everyone walks away from your presence feeling uplifted. Some walk away feeling pierced, unsettled, like something deep inside them cracked open without warning. But that discomfort, it's not your fault. It's your power. You don't just walk into a room. You hold up a mirror the moment you step through the door, and suddenly they see themselves, not the version they show the world, but the one they've been running from. The flaws, the laziness, the lies they tell themselves in silence. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your peace reveals their chaos. Your growth highlights their stagnation. And that kind of presence, it doesn't just get noticed, it burns into memory. You don't preach. You don't pressure. You exist so boldly, so honestly, that people can't help but confront who they've become. And that confrontation isn't always pretty. Some admire you, others resent you, but both are reacting to the same truth. You've become what they've avoided becoming. You've trained your mind, built rituals while they built distractions, faced your demons while they played dress-up with theirs. And that contrast, it hits them in places they didn't know were hollow. The Stoic Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." You've taken that to heart. You don't just wear values, you bleed them. Your life has become a quiet sermon that echoes louder than any speech. And that's why women don't just notice you. They feel altered in your presence. You challenge them without speaking. You inspire them without trying. You force them to ask themselves, am I ready to stand beside a man like this, or will I be left behind by my own comfort? So when people vanish after meeting you, let them. When they return months later saying, you made me rethink everything, believe them. That wasn't just conversation, that was impact. You don't chase approval, you leave awakenings. You don't entertain, you transform. You've become the kind of man who doesn't just enter a room. You rearrange the atmosphere. Number 6, you're selective, not just with women but with everything. You no longer follow your hunger, you follow your standards. And that alone makes you dangerous in a world built on instant gratification. You're not led by lust, by loneliness, by the loud craving for attention that eats most men alive from the inside out. You've killed the weak voice inside that once begged to be loved and raised a quieter, deeper voice that whispers, protect your energy at all costs. And that's exactly what you do now, not with ego, but with ruthless clarity. There was a time when you gave yourself away too easily. You entertained chaos because it looked beautiful. You allowed access just because someone smiled, flirted, or made you feel wanted for a fleeting second. But pain became your teacher. Silence became your sanctuary. And solitude became your rebirth. You've suffered the consequences of being too open, too giving, too eager. And now your soul wears armor made from the shards of every time you gave to someone who only came to take. Now you don't hand out your attention. You curate your life like a sacred space. You don't just walk away from disrespect. You evaporate from it, like smoke from a fire that never deserved your warmth in the first place. You don't explain yourself to confusion, and you don't defend your distance because distance has become your language, and those who know your worth can feel what your silence means. I don't need you, I choose me. Most people will never understand how a man can want something and still say no. But you've learned that self-control is the ultimate expression of power, to look temptation in the eye and walk away without flinching. That's what separates kings from the clowns. You're not in this world to consume. You're here to build. And anything or anyone that doesn't sharpen your edge becomes background noise you leave behind without hesitation. You've seen too much, felt too much. You've touched chaos with bare hands, and now peace has become your currency, and you spend it wisely. You don't give your time to people who talk in circles. You don't give your heart to smiles with hidden knives. You don't invest in beauty that lacks depth or energy that drains instead of elevates. You have built your kingdom in silence, brick by brick, scar by scar. And not everyone deserves an invitation to enter. That's not being picky. That's being self-respecting. So when a woman feels you pulling back, she isn't just feeling rejection. She's feeling your spiritual filtration system. She's feeling the boundary of a man who's been burned and has no time to play with fire that doesn't warm his future. She's feeling the space between your desire and your discernment. And that space is where boys disappear and only queens remain. You're not cold. You're calibrated. You don't say no because you don't feel. You say no because you've bled for your standards and you've promised yourself, never again will I allow temporary beauty to cost me permanent peace. You no longer crave attention. You command energy, not through loudness, not through games, but through a soul that is so grounded, so composed, so beautifully unshakable that people don't even realize they're shifting themselves just to stand near your frequency. So when you're selective, understand this. You're not rejecting them. You're respecting you. You're reminding the world that power isn't loud. It's precise. And that's why when you leave, people don't just miss you, they remember the silence you left behind. Number 7, you've turned pain into presence. You don't walk in with noise, you walk in with gravity. The kind that shifts the air, makes people stand a little straighter, breathe a little slower. Because something about you doesn't just exist, it reminds. It reminds them of something they've forgotten. The weight of truth, the kind that isn't preached but carried. You've lived through storms that would have torn lesser men apart. And not only did you endure, you absorbed the lightning, let it strike your chest, rip through your soul and leave something behind. Not fear, but stillness. Not chaos, but command. The kind of presence no man can fake and no woman can forget. There are parts of you nobody will ever understand. Wounds that never made it into stories, nights that screamed so loud inside you that you forgot how to sleep. You've buried dreams, let go of people who felt like home, sat in silence so long it became your language. But you never begged. You never collapsed. You let every ounce of agony forge something divine in you. And now that pain echoes in everything you do. It's not visible, but it's felt in the way you look at someone, not just with your eyes, but with the weight of every moment that taught you what love isn't, what loyalty isn't, what life becomes when you stop running. Your presence doesn't entertain, it awakens. You don't charm people into comfort. You challenge them into awareness because you carry the kind of depth that makes shallow things tremble. You've tasted betrayal and stayed soft. You've been abandoned and stayed loyal to yourself. You've walked through hell and refused to become it. And now that quiet power follows you like a shadow. You don't need to speak much because your energy speaks louder than your mouth ever could. It says, "I've known darkness and I don't fear yours." Women sense this before you ever speak. They feel it in the way you don't chase, the way you don't flinch, the way you don't try to impress. You're not playing the game, you're not selling illusions. You are a man forged by silence, anchored in pain, armored by self-respect. And that kind of man doesn't seduce. He summons. He doesn't seek approval. He becomes the standard. That's why some will be drawn to you like gravity and others will run like hell. Because when someone meets your soul, they're forced to meet their own. This is Stoicism in its purest form, not emotionless but unshakable, not numb but precise. As Epictetus once said, circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him to himself. And you were revealed in fire, you didn't break. You burned brighter, you didn't fall apart. You became indivisible, you no longer need to be understood. You've outgrown the need to explain, now you just walk. And every step whispers one thing. This man earned his peace the hard way. Don't disturb it unless you come with truth. So if people hesitate around you, if they struggle to hold eye contact, if they walk away changed, even if they never say why, know this. They didn't meet a story. They met a storm that learned to walk like a man. If these signs didn't just sound familiar, if they cut through you like a truth you've always known but never said out loud, then understand this wasn't just a video. This was a mirror, a reflection of the man you fought to become, a man who didn't just climb out of darkness but dragged himself out by the throat, a man who didn't beg to be seen but chose to build himself in silence while the world looked the other way. This isn't about being liked. It's not about charm or games or cheap validation. This is about something far rarer, inner power that doesn't flinch, a presence carved by solitude, discipline, and the brutal art of letting go. Most will never understand it. That's why they stare. That's why they watch in silence. Because when a man rises from the ashes without bitterness, when he becomes whole without applause, his presence doesn't just attract, it commands. You're not just attractive. That word is too light for what you carry. You're undeniable. You've walked through fire and refused to become smoke. You've outgrown the noise, outlasted the storms, and now you stand as living proof that self-respect isn't just powerful. It's irresistible. You don't chase love, you attract it through truth. You don't scream for attention. You pull it with your silence. And in a world addicted to noise, your stillness is deafening. This is Stoicism lived, not quoted. This is what happens when a man becomes anchored instead of reactive, when he responds instead of explodes, when he chooses his peace over proving a point and his purpose over being understood. So if something in your chest lit up, if a flame you forgot you had started flickering again, don't let it die out. Feed it, protect it, honor it, because the man you are becoming doesn't belong in the shadows anymore. He's earned his place in the light, not by pretending but by persevering. If this message hit home, hit that like button like you mean it. Share it with someone who's walking that same quiet path. Subscribe if you want more content that doesn't just talk to you but talks to your soul, and leave your affirmation in the comments below, something only a man who's been through it would understand. You've earned the right to be seen. Now walk like it.